Did he and his team ever consider buildable bridges to cross narrow water sections of maps?
Yes, absolutely. And the programmers came to us with burning torches and pitchforks and said, "This will destroy the pathing. Don't do it."
That's the reason.
And I said, "What? That's the reason." And I said, "What if the ships can go underneath it?" And they said, "This will destroy the pathing. Don't do it." Also, if the ships can go underneath it, then sometimes the ships will get mixed up and they'll sail onto the land and go around on the land and do things. And I said,
so it's a
"Surely you can stop that." And they said, "We could stop that, but we don't want to. For the tiny benefit you get of buildable bridges is not worth all the massive, giant programming stuff we'd have to do to allow it. And we have other things that we'd rather do, like fixing the bug that makes everyone go to coordinate 0, on the map."
All right, so for those developers out there, it can be done. So keep annoying them, and maybe they'll do it, guys. If the pathing should be way that should not be a problem anymore.
Now, one of the things is they said now in the system we had then, where computers were not as advanced as now, they said after you build the bridge, the computer would have to stop and refigure a bunch of pathing stuff, and so the game would pause for like a minute or two while it figured that out. Probably you could get away without that now.
Interesting. Okay, well, developers, if you're listening, get to it. Has he seen the longest game in AoE2 history? 95 hours.
Of course not.
You haven't seen
Who would ever
not the whole.
Who would ever
watch the whole game? Sam. Have you heard of it? Have you? You have to watch the whole game. I can send you a link as well. But yeah, there was a game that was 95 hours. Without
this is 97 hours, a stalemate.
Yeah. Wow. The guy disconnected at the end. Actually, that's how it ended.
Could did they have potty breaks? I mean, isn't this what
way more than potty breaks?
That StarCraft player, isn't that the StarCraft guy in Korea died from doing this, right?
Yeah, the guy in the cafe playing StarCraft. Yeah, that was a sad story.
I can't imagine that they were having. I'll say this: I can't imagine they were still having fun.
They didn't play for 95 hours straight. They took they went on with their lives. They left the games running and straight. It was basically a deadlock because both players had no way to generate gold, and neither of them had a way to attack each other's town centers or castles, whatever was left. And then it just came down to this like micro game where like the only way to win is
H2?
This is H2. Yeah, this is H2.
Okay, so they couldn't get gold. They couldn't trade?
They ran out of gold. It was a two-player game. They ran out of gold. They destroyed each other's markets. So they had no relic income. They had no income of any kind. They were both down to like a castle and a town center each. And the only way to win, essentially what it came down to, was some micro when the other player is offline. So one guy would set his alarm to the other guy's like off time zone, like in the middle of the night. And he would wake up and he would try to like micro villagers to attack a castle. It's one of the most ludicrous games I've ever seen in my life. And then essentially the guy...
I guess the woods were all chopped down so they couldn't farm, huh?
No, nothing. There was no way to generate any kind of resource at that point. It's a crazy game. I mean, if you're looking for a video idea, I'm going to give you that one. React to, T90's video.
And I thought the Black Forest games were nuts.
Do you know the Legend of Fatslob?
No. I remember I always refused to play Black Forest back in the day, though. I said, this is only for you guys that suck. We'll put it in the game, but I'm not going to try to balance it or anything. It's dumb.
So Fatslob is a user that has been playing Black Forest in a certain, I think it's like version 1.2 something. It's a specific version that basically does not allow you to chop wood with mangonels or trebuchets. So he's played over like 10,000 games of Black Forest, and he only plays Vikings, and it only plays when both civs are Vikings. And what he does is essentially builds a wall in the middle at the start, and he builds like 30 layers of the wall, and then he creates a death ball, a Viking death ball, and like it's it's not unbeatable, obviously, but he's found a way to win a decent percentage using this identical strategy on this identical map 1,000 times.
Well, I mean, if you get really good at one specific setup, then obviously you'll be better at that than any other player is at that, right?
Sure, to a certain extent.
I'm going to be really good on the islands map using. It
needs to be a map with very little variation. That's the key, though. That needs to be very little variation.
Islands probably wouldn't work. Black Forest is that's why Black Forest was so boring, right? because it didn't have any variation.
But this guy he's a legend. If you ever look up Fatslob into YouTube, you think you're going to be blown away that this is a real thing. He played the Viper one time, and the game disconnected, and he was basically saying, like, Viper is like, hey, can we just continue where the game left off because I have a save file? And Fatslob was losing that game, and he's like, yeah, no, I was like, I'm not going to continue. Like, I'm not going to start a new game. Or, no, he was like, I want to start a new game because, like, I was winning or whatever. I don't know. He made up some excuse. But point being, he tried to pawn off a win against the best player in the world.
So he wanted to pull up his pants and go home.
Correct. He was playing the best player like of all time, and he was going to lose. And then the game disconnected.
Because Viper is a legend, you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny videos on like, this is what I mean. There's so much fun AoE content. If you ever go down that route, let me see if I got more questions. Infantry.
So the Viper, right? Infantry. What about infantry?
Go ahead. Oh, you had a question about the Viper. Go ahead.
No. The Viper plays other civs though. He's
Yeah, but he played him. He played him in his rules in his Black Forest, right. And he was beating him.
Then he would have won
100%. I mean, I don't think anyone's debating that
but
except
also,
him.
Notice that the Viper. That one of the things I do remember about him from something I saw maybe on a YouTube video is that he'll do weird strategies. So that I respect. He's not repeating the same thing again and again. He'll try out things. And I'm sure he tries strategies that then fail.
Of course.
Just because if you do a lot of weird things, some of them are going to fail, right?
Hi, apologies for the interruption, but I promise it's a good one. If you're enjoying today's episode with Sandy and you're an RTS fan, there's a good chance you might enjoy some of these other episodes that I did. Episode 49 and 51 is with Lewis Castle, who is actually the creator of the first RTS game ever made, Dune, and then he went on to work with the Command and Conquer series. He also worked with Spielberg on a game called Boom Block, so a really awesome episode. I hope you check it out. Episode 35 and 41 is with Ed Del Castillo, who worked on Red Alert 1 and Balrams, which are both very popular RTS games. If you're feeling a bit more adventurous, episode 62 is with Steve Murphy. He is the DEA agent that was in Colombia when Pablo Escobar was captured. The show Narcos is based on his life. And one last one, I promise, episode 52 is a personal favorite of mine. It's with Leonard Skinner, who is a man that sold everything and lives on a boat. A really interesting and insightful conversation, so links to everything down below.
I mean, these guys are on another level.
That shows he's got heart, you know?
But these guys are like, we're talking about like, the Viper is like the best of all time, arguably. So he's got a point where he can experiment.
I'm sure that the Viper playing a terrible strategy will still beat
That's what I'm saying.
Player playing good, right. But still, you know, when he's playing the top guys and he picks a wacko strategy and he loses, I mean, you suck it up, right? But I respect the Viper.
The Viper.
The fast guy, I'm like, I guess I kind of want to sit back and admire him from a distance, but I don't think I'd want to hang with him.
Really?
You know, I wouldn't mind hanging out with the Viper, you know? Well, he's like he'd only have one thing he'd ever talk about.
Right. Well, right.
You know, he's got a bee in his bonnet about something. It's like when I'm talking to a guy who's upset about some balance. Like there's this one guy that constantly he stopped lately, but he used to go into all my comment things and accuse me of ruining Age of Empires 1 because I introduced chariots.
Oh my God, let it go, my guy. It's been 30 years. What are you doing?
He's so mad. So I actually sort of called him out. I didn't give his name, but I said, this guy annoys me because right. And I said, but my response to him when he says, you ruined Age of Empires by introducing the chariot. And I said, oh, too bad. That's why it sold so poorly, I guess, you know, and just like blew it off. But so I wouldn't want to sit down for dinner with that guy because he just go on and on about how the chariots ruined the game.
I understand now where you're coming from.
Viper, you know, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to talk to, except that he, I guess, is Norwegian. So
Viper, if you're in Madrid next month, if you're in Madrid next month,
all the Norwegians I've spoken with spoke perfect English. Maybe that's because the only Norwegians that would talk to me were already speaking.
No, he speaks perfect English. Another question.
Well, they all learned it in school, right?
Of course.
It's like, well, Germans are the same way. I was once in a car ride with a German, and he started off. We were talking, and we talked for like half an hour. He's driving me somewhere, and then he said, "I'm so sorry, my English is super bad. I can barely do it." I said, "Dude, we just had a conversation."
Right. You're fluent.
You know, I wish my German was that bad, you know.
Right.
But
they do that a lot. Germans do that a lot. I've noticed as well. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak English, but like it's literally fluent. Like it's perfect.
But they literally speak English. Yeah. Whereas the Japanese don't speak English, and they don't speak English. The Japanese are terrible. I think it's because the Japanese educational system is memorization largely, which is not a good way to learn a language.
Yeah, no, it's not. No.
Okay, sorry. Go on to the next question.
Next question.